Hi, welcome to a new video, and this is a very overdue review of Forza Horizon 5, or Forza Horizon 5. I've always called it Forza, but lots of people call it Forza. I don't know which one's correct, so I'm just going to call it Horizon 5 from now on. So, as I say, yeah, this is a bit overdue, but it's an important title, so I think I really do need to review it. So, just a brief introduction to anybody who's been living under a rock for a while. Horizon 5 is basically set in Mexico and comes with the largest map yet, and also changes how the season works, as the map itself features a range of biomes, so different environments, and each of these is affected differently by the seasons in question. It's an arcade racer at heart, and let's see how this version of Horizon stacks up. So, kicking off with driving simulation, I've given it a 6. The Horizon series is always often an accessible take on vehicle dynamics, with simulation playing second fiddle to ease of use on a pad and approachability. And for an arcade racer, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. Wheel setup and force feedback has historically been sacrificed on that altar of arcade approachability. Now, while Forza Horizon 5 doesn't rewrite that history, what it does do is tweak it in a good way. So the changes to the engine itself are subtle, but they're noticeable, and the vehicles act as you would expect them to dynamically, just in a very filtered and smoothed manner. And in that regard, it's reminiscent of the approach taken by both Drive Club and Art of Rally, in that there's what seems to be a solid base existing underneath what is clearly an arcade racer, and it's a balance and approach that works for me. Pad use is, as always, excellent, and while still not as good as it needs to be, force feedback via a wheel has improved slightly. It's okay, but nothing more. Issues do still exist around the fact that the baseline force feedback settings are poor, and with my T300, force feedback I found could be lost randomly mid-game, and you needed to unplug and plug the wheel back in to sort that out. So, not ideal, but good. And overall, the actual driving simulation for the kind of arcade title it is well balanced, and it works really well. Moving on to racing simulation, so this is looking at the AI and the pace of the AI and how adjustable and flexible it is. So this score is of course based totally around Forza Horizon being a pure arcade title, and it continues to use the Forza driver task system, so that's still very much in place. As far as AI goes, it's scalable across a wide range of difficulty levels, and the game does keep an eye on your performance and suggests when you need to change it, which is a nice touch. It's got a rough and tumble approach to driving that wouldn't suit a sim title, outside of arguably British touring cars and rallycross, but that's an aside. But in the setting of Horizon, it works. Not perfectly, but it works. The balance always feels on the right side of fair and makes for mostly enjoyable races. I mean, overall, it's fun and it adds to the drama, and I think that's what works well in its environment. So, yeah, Racing Simulation gets a 7 in that regard around arcade titles. We then come on to what I personally think is the most unfair of my review ratings for Horizon, and that's Motorsport Simulation, so how well it simulates real-world motorsport. And I've given it a 2 here because, as I say, it does feel a little unfair to score Horizon in this category, so do feel free to ignore it. Horizon, unsurprisingly, isn't attempting for most of its events to mirror or even take any influence from real-world motorsport. As such, expecting it to score highly here would be odd. Events don't have qualifying, they don't really have practice sessions, and to be brutally honest, I don't think it needs them. I think it would take away from the title. So, yeah, the score, as I have to grade it, is a 2, but it's also in a relevant category for Horizon as a title. So, please do feel free to ignore that one. We then come on to accessibility, and I'll be honest, Forza Horizon 5 does come close to being one of the most accessible titles I've played. It's easy to get into for the most part. Everything is also well explained within the core game. The map is littered with stuff to do, and plenty of explanation is offered around what to do. Niggles do exist in regard to the speed at which you can open up the main Horizon events, but Horizon 4 arguably had the opposite problem, and it does seem balance is difficult for the devs to find in this particular area. Issues do also still exist with the Forzathon seasonal events, and these are not new issues. The entry requirements are not always clear, which still results in frustration around exactly what you need to do to compete some events. However, overall, Forza Horizon 5 remains an extremely accessible title. It's quick and easy to get into, there's a lot to do, the core of the gameplay you are talked through, it's very new player friendly, and I think most importantly it's very friendly to people who don't play racing titles, and I think that is one of its big strengths. We then come on to content, and this is the biggest map yet. It's got the best season balance across the map. It's got a huge amount of events, further added to with the Forzathon events, and as a result, Horizon 5 isn't short of things to do. And clearly not happy with that, the devs then added in the event lab, which allows players to, quite frankly, create an absurd amount of bespoke events and content for people to mess around with. Add in the massive car count, with more being added via post-launch DLC, and content clearly isn't an area that Forza Horizon suffers in. It does drop a point because of some odd omissions around certain OEMs, so I've got my fingers crossed that post-launch DLC will resolve that, because I would like some alphas back, please. And then our final scoring category is value, and I've given Forza Horizon a 5 for value, because even if you put aside the post-launch DLC and focus just on the base game, it offers a lot straight out of the box. And in all honesty, if you're not a completist in terms of cars and filling your garage, you'd almost certainly still be happy with what the base game has to offer in terms of car count. Add in the volume events, the size of the map to explore, and the ever-changing Forzathon events, and it's hard to argue that Forza Horizon doesn't offer solid value for money. So, in summary, Horizon 5 is an absolutely massive title that, again, expands on the open world formula it's honed since its first title arrived. It offers more of anything, and in all honesty, it's going to take some doing to take its crown in that regard. Turn 10 and Playground Games have hit on a winning formula that appeals to both racing fans of all type, as well as more general gamers for whom racing games are not a core part of the title they play. And in all honesty, unless you're the most po-faced of sim racing purists, it's hard to believe you would not be able to find something to like in Forza Horizon 5. And in all likelihood, you're going to end up finding a lot to like, because it's a very likeable title. So if you're looking for arguably one of the most polished and rounded arcade style titles out there with a good sim balance underneath to its handling, pick up Forza Horizon 5. I think the only negative around it is you can't get it on the PlayStation platform, and that genuinely is just about the only negative I can think of for it. So there we go, that's my review of Forza Horizon 5. Sorry it's late, but I hope it's useful, or at least of interest. If you have found it so, please do hit the like button down below, and if you want to see more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel, and keep an eye out for future videos. Thanks very much, take care.